What's going on, fellow A-Plusers? It is I, your host, Adam Perez. I'm back once again with a brand new video for you guys today. Live viewer question time. That's right. It is, in fact, Sunday evening. We did our live episode of A-Plus Hero Report. Shout out to Jinsaku for getting the opportunity to join us for a little bit on A-Plus Hero Report. Always appreciate getting the opportunity to speak with him, collaborate with him, and just shoot the shit. You know what I'm saying? But we were not able to get to everybody's live viewer questions, but that's certainly okay. We're here to go ahead and answer your questions today, or I should say, I certainly am, to go ahead and finish answering off your questions. So let's get into it, shall we? For those of you who are always wondering, how do I go ahead and submit a live viewer question? Again, usually on Thursdays or Wednesdays or Thursdays or any days after that. If you go over to our community tab here on our YouTube page, we'll be posting live viewer question posts just like this again every Wednesday or Thursday or any day after that, leading into a Sunday episode of A+ Hero Report. And we'll definitely do our best to try and answer your question live on air. So let's go ahead and finish these off. I believe we finished off with Carter Matthews. So let's go ahead and dive in, why don't we? Let's see here, just making sure everything's looking good. All right, let's do it. Carter Matthews, you know how the current CW Superman and Lois series has been a huge hit with fans since it came out. What would you think if the next Superman movie by James Gunn had a similar tone and structure? I think this would be really cool, having a Clark Kent Superman on the big screen who now has a family and is more well-grounded. Seeing him balancing work at the Daily Planet while taking care of his family and saving the world, while it may seem like a similarity to Superman and Lois, I think it would be great. We don't need to see Clark crash land on Earth and then becoming the Man of Steel. Yeah, I feel like Superman's origin story is definitely being played out in the sense of how we no longer really showcase Peter Parker's origin stories, or even Batman for that matter, right? We've seen the Wayne family die countless times, unfortunately. Same thing goes with Clark crash landing on Earth. Look, I really appreciate the tone and structure that Superman and Lois certainly has. I do think that it is a tone that a lot of people would really, the general audiences would be really thrilled to see sort of on screen, especially the concept of him having a family. While I wouldn't necessarily put them in Smallville during that type of film, I would certainly keep them in Metropolis. I think a family dynamic would actually work really wonders for Superman at some point in time. It'll be interesting to see what Gunn does with Superman. Not to say that we couldn't get to that point, because it does feel very much like we are dealing with a younger Superman here. He's already working at the Daily Planet, I think, when we pick up his story, according to James Gunn. So he definitely has that experience a little bit under his belt. Is he like still used to being Superman? Who knows? I don't know how long he's been Superman in James Gunn's movie, but he will at least have a single you know, solidified life around him. Could we eventually, if look, we haven't really had the Superman movies to really showcase him eventually having a family. I think Superman Returns teased the idea of him being a father, finding out that Lois's son was in fact his kid, but we unfortunately never got a sequel to kind of see that established a little bit more. I don't necessarily think Zack Snyder had kids in mind for Henry Cavill Superman, but maybe that's something that comes down the line for James Gunn. Maybe if we do get ourselves a sequel to this Superman movie, maybe Lois ends up being pregnant. Maybe the end of the trilogy, we got ourselves a little kiddo for Superman to teach and grow and things like that. So we'll see what dynamic that they certainly go with. I would like to eventually see Superman and Lois married with kids on the big screen, but time will tell to see how long we certainly get to that point. So I do think James Gunn's tone for this film may be similar to that of Superman and Lois, just maybe not so much the family dynamics, maybe sort of that truth American, truth, justice and the American way, sort of what Tyler's Superman sort of represents, a little softer side, if you will. So I think he probably will go with that tone, just maybe not the family dynamic, but maybe eventually, Carter. Robert Buena, it doesn't get enough credit But how awesome was that Lightspeed Rescue was the first series where all the Rangers' weapons, morphers, and Zords were created by a military organization. As a kid, I always found that very fascinating and unique when it came to past Power Rangers seasons. It was so cool seeing five adults being recruited to save the world. It even was the first time where the Rangers themselves all had careers. That's true. They already were kind of in their own field and then recruited into being a ranger. The entire organization of Lightspeed was run by Captain Mitchell, who was the father of the Pink Ranger Dana. What was even more unique was that we had our first American exclusive Power Ranger with Ryan as the Titanium Ranger, who was also the brother of Dana, who was presumed killed when their father made a difficult choice to spare his life when they all were in a car accident, hanging on a cliff. Another first was that we had our first interracial relationship with Joel and Miss Fairweather, who had ended up getting married when the team came back to the team up with Time Force. I do recall that. Their relationship itself was the making of the entire series, where Joel kept trying everything he could to court Fairweather. It kind of reminded me also of like Jake and Gia, how Homeboy not as goofy, but Homeboy was literally trying to court her sort of all season long. Anyways, what do you think of Lightspeed, and do you agree, disagree that this season had influence in the Power Ranger franchise? Yeah, I definitely do think it has influence in the Power Ranger franchise, especially with Carter certainly sticking around and having appearances in the future. But I enjoyed Lightspeed Rescue for certainly what it was. I definitely had an enjoyable time with it. And I'm glad you pointed out some of those firsts, because I do believe I remember watching it that I was kind of impressed that, they were all adults, they were being recruited, sort of thing, and that this was sort of a military organization. I don't recall at that time having seen another Power Rangers show where this was sort of planned by the U.S. government, but I really kind of dug it. So I thought that was pretty cool. Thank you for bringing that up, Roberto. Doomsday. What's up, Doomsday? Do you think it'll be cool to see a full behind the scenes video on the final battle between Peter 1 and the Green Goblin? Um, I'm assuming you're talking about the Tobey Maguire, Peter Parker and Green Goblin. I'm surprised if there isn't a full behind the scenes video on that final battle. I feel like I might have seen some special features that highlighted it off of the Spider-Man DVD at the time. I don't know if it was just specifically the final battle, but I definitely remember seeing some shots of behind the scenes of them filming while they had some commentary over it. But I wouldn't mind more behind the scenes from that type of stuff. I honestly miss, look, that was the one thing that I used to love collecting DVDs and like just physical media back in the day, and especially like Blu-rays, because of the special features that they used to have on there, especially like box sets. I was a sucker for like audio commentaries and behind the scene featurettes and stuff. The Star Wars for me was like, it always had the best. Star Wars and the Lord of the Rings box sets just had some of the most in-depth behind the scenes like features and videos and things like that. And I really miss those these days. Like, I don't know if streaming services offer those type of things for movies. I know they usually have like a feature section or like extras, but maybe they're like deleted scenes. But I do wish that movies in general, whether they come out on Blu-ray, DVD, streaming, that they all had some sort of audio commentaries and behind the scenes featurettes. I always love seeing how movie magic is created and what goes on behind the scenes. And just based off of the final battle between Peter and Green Goblin, it was gritty, violent, and just personal. And I really love what Sam Raimi brought to that battle. So yeah, I would love to see more of it. What are your thoughts about the news of Jonathan Majors' arrest for alleged assault? It's troubling, man. Listen, you know, innocent until proven guilty. Um, I was hearing some of the stuff that I was reading was that, it's protocol for him to be arrested. With allegations like that, especially I think the girl might have went to the hospital or at least gotten checked out. I don't think it was like severe like that, but again, I mean, if he did, again, that's if. I don't know the truth behind certainly what's going on, but perception is everything. You know what I mean? That is not sort of alleged sexual assault is not something that you really want on your ledger. You know what I mean? You don't really want people to view you as that type of person. His attorney has been very vocal as of this Sunday to talk about the idea that, hey, look, we've got proof to show how innocent that this man is. we'll see the proof when it's in fact revealed, and I'm sure they'll probably square that away or whatever the case may be. So we'll see what happens. Like for me, it is just one of those friendly reminders. Even if Jonathan did or didn't do it, it is just one of those reminders that nobody is perfect. And as much as we admire people and look up to people, we should also have an expectancy that they're not perfect. And we shouldn't put all of our faith and our trust and belief in one person. Unless your name is Jesus Christ, like we're all going to do some stupid shit in our lives. And if this is Jonathan Major's stupid shit, it's terrible. So if it is true, I definitely pray that the victim certainly gets her recovery that she needs, and gets her voice certainly heard. If it's false, then I think I always think that if it's a false claim, I always think that the victim, or the person that's claiming it and it is false, should definitely get some repercussions, because that is definitely sort of like not something that you allege so easily that somebody put their hands on you. You know what I mean? We should all just not touch each other. Like, just stay to our own personal business. If it don't belong to you, don't touch it. That type of mentality. But I've never been one to believe and put my hand on another woman. It's just low down as it goes, low down as it gets. And I just hope Jonathan Majors is just not one of those dudes. You know what I mean? Has said all the right things in interviews. He's presented himself phenomenally over the years, at least since he's been in my in my vision when I first saw him in Lovecraft Country. He's just an incredibly talented person. And it's just one of those things, like when you lose somebody like a Chadwick Boseman who was so impactful to the black community, having somebody like Jonathan Majors kind of step up and really, I'm not going to say replace Chadwick Boseman, but also offer himself as a strong black man that has a really good head on his shoulders, sort of thing, right? You can easily see people looking to him sort of as a role model. So listen, I don't know his past. I've seen several different things on the internet already, suggesting that he's kind of done this thing before, and now he's just maybe kind of getting caught, or that things are kind of just finally being brought to the light. But again, these are all allegations. These aren't, proof or fact that he actually harmed somebody. So we'll let the justice system certainly work its way out, but man, I gotta tell you, it's just not a good it's not a good look. And I don't think we should claim somebody's innocence or guilt until we hear further. So let the chips certainly fall where they may, and if anything, we'll see where it goes from here. And look, I will say this too, this just feels like, again, regardless if it's true or not, the shift of the MCU has just changed. The momentum of the MCU has just changed. It just definitely feels like the honeymoon stage is over. We got through our first 3 phases without too much incident. People praising the MCU, Marvel Studios, for what they accomplished. Phase 4 has been a roller coaster and a bumpy ride, right? Starting over, quality hasn't necessarily been there. Was it Victoria Alonso just getting fired recently at being a long-term executive producer? She just got let go. Bob Iger talking about the idea, and Kevin Feige talking about the idea of like slowing down some of the production on some of their stuff, wanting to make sure that there's quantity over quality, right? And now the Jonathan Majors thing, it's just like, man, when did they turn into DC with like all the drama and all the problems all of a sudden? But this has just not been a good look for the MCU over the past like two years or so since we've started this phase. But hopefully things will turn out differently. So, prayers to Jonathan Majors and his alleged victim. That's everything. I hope the truth comes out. Let's just say that. Do you like how Wanton always is saying word kill, destroy all the time? Well, I don't want to say all the time, but they definitely have certainly utilized it in the trailer that we wind up seeing. But yeah, this definitely showcases to me this is meant for more mature audiences. Not like we're going to get blood and guts and gore and thing like that, but this ain't Joe Daddy's Power Rangers, if you will. So it'll be interesting to see what else that they really push the envelope on. Morgan, what's up, Morgan? For the final season of Cobra Kai, the return of John Kreese once again after the cliffhanger, do you see him reopening Cobra Kai or Johnny himself taking it back and fulfilling what he wanted since season one, which was to make Cobra Kai be for everyone and be all about self-defense? Or should he stay with Daniel in Miyagi Fang Dojo? If Hilary Swank were to reprise her role as Julie Pierce from The Karate Kid, would you like to see her take place where Daniel and everybody else are celebrating the life of Miyagi, and Julie herself is someone Daniel either heard about from Miyagi's years before his passing, or she is a complete stranger to him, but heard of him through Miyagi. And Julie giving wisdom to Daniel would be a heartfelt moment since they were both his students. In the next Karate Kid, it was revealed that Julie's grandfather used to be Mr. Miyagi's first student after coming to America before Daniel. Oh wow, I didn't realize that. It's been so long since I literally seen the new Karate Kid. I don't even know if I honestly finished it all. I just was not that big of a fan of it. But that's a kind of a cool revelation to kind of learn that. Um do you see him reopening Cobra Kai in the sense of John Kreese, or will Johnny take it back? I think Johnny and Daniel will continue to do their thing. Although I will say John Kreese taking back Cobra Kai, you know what? That's a good question. I don't know, because I only say that because John Kreese, I think he's like a wanted fugitive, right? It wasn't like they released him from prison, if I'm not mistaken. I think he escaped, right? So it's not like he can just go back to the dojo, open it up, and like everything be good to go, right? Like, no, this man is a criminal. So I don't expect John Kreese to go back and reopen Cobra Kai. So it's either gonna be Johnny, or it's gonna be maybe one of Terry Silver's henchman that we saw. Maybe the female that was trying to lead Peyton List's character name. I can't remember her name off the top of my head. Maybe she runs Cobra Kai. I don't know. I like the Johnny and Daniel kind of working together, but that also would not surprise me. But I would be curious to see like how the students handle that kind of split, since they just, formed this dojo and now they're going to be separating. So there's a part of me that thinks Johnny stays. So I don't know what happens with Cobra Kai as a whole. And as far as Julie goes, would you like to see her return take place where Daniel and everybody are celebrating the life of Mr. Miyagi? Yeah, I would definitely enjoy seeing that. Um, I think it would be cool if Daniel has never heard of. Well, no, I don't think I think they would have heard of each other. It would just surprise me that Miyagi would not tell Daniel ever in his life about Julie. Considering how close that they were, I gotta think that after the trilogy of theirs, that they still communicated and certainly still kept in contact for the rest of their lives until his passing. So I think he probably is aware of her. And I would like for her to pop up, whether that be a celebration of life, whether that's just Daniel going to Miyagi's grave and bumping into her there. I think it would be great if they finally met each other, but have heard of each other. And for me personally, I wouldn't even mind the idea of her coming on to be a mentor or a new sensei for Daniel's daughter, to be honest with you. I think that would be pretty cool also. Carlo Bernardo, Time Force absolutely had some of the best acting. Hold on, I'm just making sure I can. Had some of the best acting of all the Power Rangers series. They carried off the material really well and never felt silly the way Samurai did. They shot the intellectual arrow a little bit higher. They managed to do a time travel series by having the main four Rangers come from the year 3000. The really only time they really did huge time traveling was during the Quantum Ranger introduction when Eric and Wes went to the dinosaur era. Wes and Eric rivalry was realistic because they both were from different social classes. Wes was a rich kid while Eric was from poverty. Rancic himself was an amazing main villain. His plot to destroy Time Force in the past was cause of how he was brought up, as well as a twist where his most loyal general, Frax, was actually human and sought revenge for nearly killing him. What were your favorite moments from Time Force? It's so weird that Saban gave us an amazing series with Time Force, but then later Ninja Steel was a huge WTF series. You know, for me, the honestly the pilot episode, the first episode for me always kind of floored me. It didn't matter how many times I wind up seeing it. It just did a great job setting the tone of what the remainder of the series was going to be, and being able to see sort of a death, somebody that was close to one of our Rangers passing away, right? I think is as brutal as it certainly gets, man. So that was always a very memorable episode for me, honestly. And yeah, the acting in that series was always great. I think Wes and Jen honestly just really carried it. Aaron Cahill along with Jason Fowle were just brilliant in that series, and believable enough for me that I fell for their sort of chemistry and their on-screen bond and relationship that they have with each other. So yeah, very solid um, acting, to say the least. And you know, when it comes to Time Force and Rancic, you know, Vernon Wells is no slouch, man. He is no slouch when it comes to performance and acting. So yeah, he definitely did his thing in here too. Gabriel, what's up, Gabriel? Deadpool 3. Not sure if you already talked about this when Deadpool 3 was announced to bring back Hugh Jackman as Logan, or slash Wolverine. Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman have suggested that Deadpool 3 takes place before the events of Logan, which takes place in 2029. This makes sense as the Deadpool movie appeared to have been set in present day, so the third movie will likely take place in 2024, which is the year it will be released in theaters. Could this mean that Deadpool 3, which will finally be integrated into the MCU, very likely be set shortly after the events of Days of Future Past, and we might see Wolverine have white streaks in his hair because Wolverine in Days of Future Past had time traveling from the year 2023 to 1973, and at the end of the movie, he returned to an alternate version of 2023. Time travel is weird, so not sure if the versions we see of Deadpool and Logan are the same as one from Sony Universe, but see now crossing over to the MCU. Well, you're thinking of the Fox Universe. They were under the Fox label, not Sony at that time. Um, this could mean that Deadpool 3, which will finally be integrated into MCU, very likely to be set shortly after the events of X-Men Days of Future Past. Okay. And we might see Wolverine have a white streak in his hair. That would be cool. That would be cool. That would certainly make sense. Because Wolverine Days of Future Past traveled from the year 20 to 1973, and at the end of the movie, he returned to an alternate version of 2023. That's right, he did, didn't he? Okay, I'm trying to remember the time periods is all. Yes, I am assuming the versions of Deadpool and Logan that we do see in the Fox universe are now the ones crossing over to the MCU. Yes, they are from that reality. If that answers your question, I hope it does. But yes, they're from the Fox universe for sure. Most talented man alive. What were some interesting and crazy theories have you heard or learned about in shows and TV? This could even apply to Power Rangers. Some interesting and crazy theories that you heard or learned about in shows and movies. Crazy theories. Interesting and crazy theories. Golly. God, I'm drawing a blank right now. Interesting or crazy theories that I've heard. Well, look, I will say from um the fan club, Dan over at the fan club, I believe when we all did a roundtable with the Illuminati, I think one of his theories was, oh no, I think he nailed it actually. I think he mentioned the idea that Scrozzle rescuing Lord Zed from Grid Battle Force. But I think he also suggested wanting to see the breakout. I don't think we got to see the breakout in Dino Fury, so that was a little bit of a bummer. But that was a crazy theory that he really nailed it though. I can't think of anything fresh off the top of my head, man. I'm so sorry. Interesting or crazy theories? Yeah, I haven't heard anything crazy, man. If I think of something, I'll come back to it. Okay. Abase, what's up, Abase? Why do critics complain when a movie isn't original, but when it is, they still complain? Even when a movie does take inspiration from its source material, like a comic book or classic TV series, they still complain. It's hard to please them. I've seen movies that critics often give great reviews because of the actor. Example, a lot of Kevin Hart films, critics always give great reviews, but if it's an actual movie by someone else, they're harsh. Um, I mean, I've kind of seen it all over the spectrum a little bit. I do think that critics are getting a little bit more difficult on comic book movies these days. I don't know if it's a case of like, they're just trying to get us to trying to get these comic book movies to make better stories. Um, but like some of these movies, their critic scores are just horrendous, like just completely polar opposite that of the audience score. So there definitely tends to be a disconnect there at times, at least when it comes to comic book movies for sure. Um, Audiences, I think, are willing to accept good and decent films, um, but they maybe just don't go back to view them so much. But I mean, well, critics are always going to complain. That's why they're called critics, right? They've got to be critical to a certain extent of the movies that they watch, maybe sometimes fairly or unfairly. Um, so that's why I always suggest just look, if there's a movie that you want to see, just go see the movie. Like we shouldn't rely on a critic. We shouldn't rely on another fan or somebody that we know to suggest if we should go see a movie or not. If it's something that we're interested in, go see the film, regardless of what people are saying about it. Because at the end of the day, we all have different perspectives. Like there are people that I agree with that I listen to, that are movie critics. I respect I respect their opinions on films. But at the end of the day, it's going to be me to judge if I appreciate or like a movie or not. And there have been plenty of times the people that I do trust their opinions on. Sometimes we don't agree on films, and that's perfectly okay. But again, that's why I don't think we should worry so much about what critics say. We shouldn't care about scores so much. Um, if I do care about a score, it's more than likely usually the audience score, either the audience score from Rotten Tomatoes or the cinema score, that I usually will follow. Those tend to be pretty heads up. You know what I'm saying? In regards to how I usually feel about things. But overall, critics are meant to be critical. They've got to look at every aspect of a film and really break it down as to how they enjoy it. So, if critics really bother you that much, I would just say just stop reading the critic stuff, and just go and judge movies for yourself. And then last but not least, good old Jack Daniels, because it is in fact 5 o'clock somewhere. He says, you know how the Illuminati had been releasing tons of unofficial confirmation for things for Cosmic Fury the past month? What do you hope may or may not come true when Cosmic Fury is actually here? I, for one, think that them confirming that Nate won't appear in Cosmic Fury should have been kept secret because many fans already doubt them when it comes to their sources. It's kind of Abraham's fault too for posting pictures on social media with him in New Zealand and hanging out with the Cosmic Fury cast. He is an actor, so he should have known fans would speculate. Look, what do you hope may or may not come true when Cosmic Fury is here? I definitely hope the Fern stuff is true as an Orange Ranger. Um, I am a little thrown off by Slither and Mucus possibly appearing. Look, I love Campbell Cooley. Absolutely love Campbell Cooley. But I would almost rather those two spots go to other past Rangers if that's the case. But I don't know the impact of Slither and Mucus in Cosmic Fury. They could be great comedic relief for sure that I could be huge fans of. But when when I read the Luminardi article, I guess my hesitation is, even though they didn't say it, my hesitation is, please don't turn out to be Power Rangers. Like I just don't want Mucus and Slither to all of a sudden join the team. You know what I mean? So to avoid that, I rather the Slither and Mucus information just not be true, even though I'm pretty confident that it's pretty true. But yeah, Fern, I really hope certainly happens. The whole Nate thing. Look, my thing is there's just information I would have just sat on. You know, I don't necessarily know if we always need to know every tidbit of information that comes out, and nowhere near as early as we're learning this stuff. My biggest complaint with the Cosmic Fury news, what from the Illuminati, wasn't the fact that it's unconfirmed or, I tend to trust the Illuminati with a lot of their scoops that they have. My problem is the excitement should be for once and always. We don't need to throw out Cosmic Fury news now. That's stuff that you hold on to until after April or the beginning of May. Like, there's nobody else that's going to be breaking that news or information except you. So if you have that information, let the marketing and promotion be behind once and always, and then save those pieces of information for those upcoming months leading into Cosmic Fury to get that fan base hyped up. You know what I mean? With that information that you're continuing to leak. The Abraham stuff, we'll see what happens in that regards. That might be another one that I don't fully believe. Like, it wouldn't surprise me if he does pop up as a brief cameo, despite what the Illuminati or even Abraham is certainly saying, because he is an actor. So I feel like most places these days like to lie about some of their cameos that they're having. So we'll see what happens. But those are some of the things I would like to see happen or possibly not happen in Cosmic Fury. And again, sometimes I would just rather them hold off on revealing some information until a little bit later, or just not at all, honestly. So, but I usually tend to believe them, so I never really have a problem with the Illuminati. All right, guys, I think other than that, that will wrap up all of our live viewer questions for the day. So thank you very much, guys, for certainly coming through today. And as always, oops, didn't mean to put that back up there. Duh, Adam. But yeah, guys, that will do it for us here. But if anything, we'll probably be back next weekend, of course, for another episode of A Plus Hero Report. It's going to be a fantastic weekend for you wrestling fans, especially since WrestleMania begins next Saturday and Sunday as well. So a lot to certainly look forward to. But we definitely will see you next Sunday for A Plus Hero Report. So until then, guys, do me a big favor as always. Take care of yourselves, take care of each other, keep it A plus. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.